The alarm sliced through the pre-dawn silence. 5 a.m. Margaret Watson blinked into the darkness, her hand finding the familiar button by touch alone. As head nurse of a Chicago children's ward, her days began in the quiet, sacred hours when the city was still dreaming. She lived for the moment the children's smiles broke through the sterile hospital light. Her ritual was simple: the white uniform, a single, fortifying sip of coffee, and a pause at her apartment window. She'd bought this place 2 years ago for its 15-minute walk to the hospital. It wasn't spacious, but it was a sanctuary. The walls told the story of her heart, adorned with shaky, vibrant drawings and photographs gifted by small hands. One held her gaze longer than the others, a picture of her and Sarah, age 12, their heads close, their matching short haircuts a silent promise. Sarah Jenkins had come to her ward 2 years prior, a 10-year-old with leukemia and a world already shattered by the loss of her parents. Drifting between relatives, she found an anchor in Margaret. When the chemotherapy stole Sarah's hair, Margaret took shears to her own. "Now we match," she'd said. Even after Sarah's miraculous remission, their bond held. Now, with Sarah placed in a foster home, a quiet, persistent thought had taken root in Margaret: adoption. For a single woman, it was a seismic choice, but the urge to protect this child was becoming her North Star. The cell phone's ring startled her. The screen read, "Mother." After a beat, she answered. "Maggie, are you free this weekend?" Her mother, Frances, sounded unusually buoyant. "I suppose. Why?" "We're having a backyard barbecue Saturday. The whole family. Can you come?" Margaret's eyes flicked to her calendar. Saturday was her birthday. Such a gathering was rare for her. Usually, her day was marked by a call, maybe a dutiful dinner. Her sister Rebecca's celebrations, by contrast, were always lavish. "Should I bring anything?" "Just yourself." Hanging up, a treacherous flutter of hope stirred. William and Frances Watson had always reserved their brightest spotlight for Rebecca, the charismatic cheerleader, the sorority star. Margaret, serious and introverted, lived in the soft focus background. "When I made head nurse, Dad said, 'It's a shame you didn't aim to be a doctor,'" she murmured. Her worth was proven daily at the hospital, trusted by colleagues, cherished by her mentor turned best friend, Eleanor. Eleanor's quiet, warm brother, James, an architect, had recently begun to occupy a gentle space in Margaret's thoughts. She grabbed her bag. The day was packed: new admissions, a staff meeting, and a visit from Sarah after school. In the elevator, she tempered her hope. Don't expect too much. Yet, as she stepped into the Chicago morning, a whisper escaped. Maybe this time is different. Saturday arrived. Margaret, dressed with unusual care in a pale blue dress, applied her makeup a touch heavier, and studied her reflection. 38, not young, but with life yet to live. "Today will be good," she told the mirror. "Even if it isn't, I have my own life." On the table sat gifts: fine wine for her father, perfume for her mother. By 2 p.m., she stood before her childhood home in a quiet suburb. Laughter and the signature scent of her father's barbecue sauce drifted from the backyard. Taking a breath, she rang the bell. Her father, William, answered. "Maggie, you came." His smile was slightly strained. "Hello, Dad." She offered the gift bag. "Thanks. Everyone's out back." The backyard scene was beyond anything she'd imagined. A lavishly decorated table, gourmet spreads, chilling champagne. It was a scale of party she hadn't seen since Rebecca's college graduation. About 20 relatives and friends mingled. Her mother rushed over. "Maggie, so glad you're here. Lovely dress." "Thank you, Mom. This is for you." "Oh, you shouldn't have." Frances set the gift aside without a glance. "Go say hello. Rebecca's at the table." There she was, Rebecca, holding court at the head of the table, the sun around which everyone orbited. "You made it," Rebecca said, offering a light hug. "What do you think of the decor?" "I picked everything." "It's impressive," Margaret conceded. The party unfolded pleasantly. For once, relatives asked about her work, expressing genuine awe at her role. "You're saving children's lives, Maggie," her Aunt Beth said. The praise was a balm. As the afternoon wore on, Margaret's guarded hope blossomed. A special day, her mother had called it. Emboldened, she found her mother, champagne glass in hand. "This is a lovely party, Mom." "Yes, A very special day. Francis beamed. The words tumbled out before Margaret could stop them. You remembered my birthday? Francis's face shifted, confusion erasing her smile. Oh, is that today? Her eyes widened. No, dear. This is to celebrate Rebecca's pregnancy. She's 3 months along. The words were a physical blow, freezing the air in Margaret's lungs. The sounds of the party muffled into a dull roar. Didn't you know? Francis added. From across the yard, Rebecca's giggle cut through. Oh, Maggie always thinks everything's about her, she announced, loud enough for the table to hear. She thought it was her birthday. A ripple of laughter followed. Margaret's face burned. Her father approached, hand on her shoulder. Maggie, I did remember. It's okay, Dad. She forced a smile, her vision blurring. Congratulations, Rebecca. Wonderful news. Setting her glass down with a quiet click, she slipped away unnoticed. In the small downstairs washroom, she gripped the sink, staring at her stricken reflection. Stay calm, she breathed. But the dam broke. Tears fell in hot, silent streams. No one would miss her. She left without a goodbye. In her car, she finally sobbed, forehead pressed to the steering wheel. 38 years of being second best, of invisible efforts, crashed over her. Enough, she whispered, wiping her tears raw. This is the last disappointment. A new resolution, hard and clear, formed in the ashes of her hurt. She would build her own family. She would adopt Sarah. Starting the engine, she drove toward the city, toward a life of her own making. 3 weeks later, work was her refuge. You're burning out, Maggie, Eleanor warned, placing a concerned hand on her shoulder. Being busy helps, Margaret said, her smile thin. Come for dinner tonight. James will be there. He asks about you. Margaret accepted. At Eleanor's, over a warm meal, Margaret found herself telling James everything, the lifelong comparisons, the indifference, the devastating party. He listened, his quiet presence a solace, and took her hand. I've decided, she said finally. I'm formally pursuing Sarah's adoption. I'm done waiting for my family's approval. That's a brave and beautiful decision, James said. Let me help. The next day brought a shock. At Sarah's foster home, she learned the girl had been returned to the system. She was too much to handle. The social worker, Jennifer Morris, explained gently. She's at St. Mary's. She's been asking for you. Margaret went straight there. Sarah flew down the hallway into her arms. You came. Always, Margaret whispered, holding her tight. What happened? The foster dad tried to throw away my drawings, the ones you gave me supplies for. I got angry. A protective fury ignited in Margaret. She found Jennifer. I want to adopt her, formally. As a single parent with your career, it's a rigorous process. I'm certain. We need each other. The following weeks were a whirlwind of paperwork, apartment preparations, and schedule adjustments. Eleanor, James, and her wise neighbor Edna became her foundation. Choosing your own path is never easy, Maggie, Edna said during one of their teas. You're a strong woman. You've been more of a mother to me than my own, Margaret replied, her voice thick. Edna smiled. Some ties are chosen, and those are the strongest ones. At month's end, James invited her to the art museum. As they stood before a painting, he broke the comfortable silence. I'd like to meet Sarah. Really? I like children, he said softly, taking her hand. And I like you, Margaret, very much. In the quiet gallery, surrounded by captured beauty, Margaret felt the first, fragile shoots of a new beginning, not one gifted by birth, but one built by choice, by courage, and by the quiet, steadfast love she had always given away, now finally finding its way back to her. Children, especially those interested in art, James, as an architect, was passionate about art education. The following weekend, Margaret, James, Eleanor, and Edna made the trip to St. Mary's together. Sarah's eyes lit up when James began explaining the art in the common room, pointing out lines and perspectives. Margaret, Sarah whispered later, tugging her sleeve. Is he your boyfriend? We're good friends, Margaret said, feeling a blush creep up her neck. But we might be, James chimed in with a warm, playful glance that made Margaret's heart stutter. By mid-August, the adoption screening was in its final stage. The home visit was flawless. Her finances and compatibility with Sarah deemed more than satisfactory. Only the final interview remained. Tomorrow, Margaret whispered to her darkened ceiling. If this goes well, Sarah will officially be my daughter. The word, daughter, sent a thrill of awe and terror through her. Cradling that impossible hope, she finally slept. The dawn shattered with an urgent call from the hospital. Doctor. David Clark's voice was grim. Margaret, it's about Sarah. She was admitted last night, high fever, profound fatigue. We're running tests, but we're concerned about a relapse. The phone slipped from Margaret's hand. The carefully built future seemed to crumble in an instant. Then, a steelier resolve took over. Sarah needed her, now. At the hospital, Sarah lay small and pale in the bed, an IV snaking from her arm. Eleanor was already there, a silent pillar of support. I don't know if I'm all right, Margaret answered Eleanor's worried look, but I will be for her. By afternoon, James and Edna had joined the vigil. The four of them formed a quiet, steadfast wall outside Sarah's room. Dr. Clark returned with confirmed, heavy news. The leukemia has relapsed. The silver lining is we caught it early. Treatment will be aggressive, chemotherapy, and we should explore a bone marrow transplant. The success rate is higher with a familial match. Test me, Margaret said without hesitation. The match rate for non-relatives is low, but we'll test you, of course. Test me as well, James said, stepping forward. And me, Eleanor added. Put me on whatever list you can. Edna's gentle voice was firm. Tears pricked Margaret's eyes. This was her family. There had been no word from the one she was born into. When Sarah woke, she was surrounded by four anxious faces. You're all here, she murmured, a weak smile touching her lips. Always, Margaret said, gripping her hand. We're right here, your family. The word hung in the sterile air, truer than any DNA test. 2 weeks into treatment, the specter of the transplant loomed. Margaret's marrow was not a match. Neither were James's nor Eleanor's. We need her biological family's medical history, Dr. Clark explained. Any leads could be crucial. Margaret's shoulders slumped. Her records are scattered. Her parents are gone. As she left the hospital, her phone rang. Rebecca. She had ignored her parents' calls for weeks. Steeling herself, she answered. You finally pick up. Rebecca's voice was sharp. Mom and Dad are worried. I'm at the hospital. It's critical. Always work. Rebecca sighed. The judgment clear. Some of us prioritize real family. I'm on leave for the baby. A hot anger flared, but Margaret swallowed it. Sarah's need was bigger. Rebecca. I'll call back. Hanging up. A desperate plan formed. She would go to her parents' house, not for herself, but for Sarah's medical history. The next afternoon, her mother answered the door, surprise melting into relief. Maggie, we've been so worried. In the living room, her father and Rebecca sat like a tribunal. Margaret dispensed with pleasantries. I need our family's medical history, all of it. Why? Her father, William, frowned. She explained, Sarah, the relapse, the search for a marrow match. This is for that child you want to adopt? Rebecca interjected. Yes, you'd make such a decision without family counsel? Her mother, Frances, sounded wounded. She is my family, Margaret said, her voice tight. Family is blood, Rebecca stated coolly. The old hurt boiled over. Is it? Was my forgotten birthday a family tradition? We apologized on your voicemail, Frances said defensively. An unanswered voicemail isn't an apology. This isn't about me. It's about saving a child's life. Will you help or not? With reluctant sighs, they divulged the medical history: grandfather's heart disease, grandmother's cancer. Margaret took meticulous notes. Thank you. She turned to leave. Wait. Frances caught her arm, her gaze flickering to the phone in Margaret's hand. Show us this girl. Margaret pulled up a photo. Sarah, smiling despite the hospital gown. She's sweet, Frances said, but her tone was distant. But with our actual grandchild coming, she is actual. Margaret's voice broke. She is precious to me. Rebecca took the phone, scrolling. A single mother with a full-time job. Taking on a sick child, it's a fantasy. I have support. Eleanor, James, Edna, they are my family. Her parents' faces hardened. You call strangers family? William asked, pained. I call loved ones family. Margaret retrieved her phone and walked out. Rebecca followed her to the driveway. Are you really so desperate that you'd take in a stray? She hissed. Margaret turned, her gaze level and cold. Sarah is not a stray. She is my daughter. You will never understand that. She drove away, the final ties of blood thinning to a ghostly thread. Miraculously, Sarah's body began responding fiercely to the chemotherapy. Hope, tenacious and green, pushed through again. Simultaneously, a letter arrived from social services. Margaret's hands trembled as she opened it. Jennifer Morris's voice was sunshine over the phone. Congratulations, Maggie. The committee has approved the adoption. When she told Sarah, the girl's smile outshone the hospital lights. Really? You'll be my mom? Yes, my brave, beautiful girl, forever. That night, over a quiet celebratory dinner, James took Margaret's hand. You are going to be an extraordinary mother. We all are, she said, her eyes sweeping over Eleanor and Edna. That night, Margaret made a choice. She wrote a post, her truth laid bare for anyone to see. The title read, The Family I Chose, A Story of Love Beyond Blood. She shared the journey, the meeting, the fight, the adoption approval. She posted the official document and a photo. Margaret, Sarah, James, Eleanor, and Edna. A constellation of chosen kinship. Thank you for teaching me that the deepest bonds are not inherited, but built, she wrote. By morning, her phone was alight with notifications, waves of warmth and congratulations from colleagues, friends, and strangers. One call was from her mother. She let it go to voicemail. Her new life, her real life, was beginning. A year later, under a perfect June sky, Margaret Watson stood in a small suburban church, wearing a simple, brilliant white dress. Mom, Sarah, radiant in pale pink, beamed up at her. You look like a queen. And you, my love, are the princess. Margaret kissed her cheek. The ceremony was small, brimming with a palpable, gentle joy. Eleanor stood beside her. Edna watched with tears in her eyes, and their hospital family filled the pews. When James kissed his bride, the applause was a warm embrace. He then pulled Sarah into their hug, a unit of 3, sealed by choice. A week later, the final papers were signed. Sarah Watson Green, a name that carried her past and her future. Margaret posted one final photo from the wedding, the 3 of them, laughing. The caption read, Our chosen family, complete. The story rippled outward, picked up by local news, inspiring others to consider adoption. It spoke of a love that defies simple biology. Her birth family, meanwhile, fractured under the weight of their own choices. Rebecca struggled with postpartum isolation, her husband absent, her parents overwhelmed by their own aging. Their initial jealousy over Margaret's happiness curdled into bitter rumors that found little purchase in a community that had witnessed Margaret's devotion. 6 months after the wedding, a letter arrived in a familiar hand. Frances wrote of regret, of a longing to know her granddaughter. Margaret placed the letter on the kitchen table, the heart of her home, and called a family council with James, Sarah, Eleanor, and Edna. After a long talk, Sarah looked at Margaret. I wouldn't mind having grandparents, if they're nice. Margaret penned a careful reply. We are open to meeting, but understand this. We are a family, whole and strong. If you bring hurt into our lives again, the door will close forever. It was not a surrender, but an assertion, the graceful, formidable strength of a woman who had learned to build her own world, and would protect it at all costs.